to see that the vehicle was pulled by a unicorn horse of rank E. The coachman, an elderly man, asked what Takeru was doing in that area. Takeru calmly replied that he was heading to the village of Tormi. The old man looked at him with curiosity and asked if he was a mage. Smiling awkwardly, Takeru explained that he was just a collector. The man was amazed, saying it had been a long time since he had met someone with that profession. He mentioned that he was also heading to Tormi. Kindly, the old man offered him a ride, but Takeru initially refused, saying he was too big and didn't want to cause trouble. The children in the carriage laughed at the comment, finding his size amusing. Even so, the old man insisted, and Takeru eventually accepted the invitation. During the trip, he kept wondering why all the children in this world seemed to like him so much. But he didn't mind after all. That made the adults more comfortable around him too. The old man, amused, commented that Takeru's size hadn't been a problem for the carriage, but Takeru still apologized for taking up so much space. The coachman explained that in Tormi there was an important rule: everyone must help each other. Takeru, a bit skeptical, asked what they would do if he turned out to be a disguised bandit. One of the boys laughed and said he was lying because if he were dangerous, the carriage's magic item would have already activated. The woman explained that the artifact glows when someone with ill intentions is nearby. Takeru found the idea interesting and thought that maybe he could make something similar. He then introduced himself, and the woman said her name was Eliza. Her children were Yunan and Kain, and the old coachman introduced himself as Poran. Suddenly, B began making small sounds, and the children noticed immediately. Curious, they asked Takeru what that noise was. He said it came from his small companion, but hesitated a little, unsure how they would react upon seeing him. Eliza, however, reassured Takeru, saying it was common for adventurers to travel with tamed monsters. With that, he decided to introduce B. As soon as the little dragon appeared, the children were enchanted. Poran and Eliza, however, were astonished, since it was extremely rare to see a dragon up close. To avoid drawing attention, Takeru quickly covered it up by saying that B was just an ordinary black dragon, not mentioning that he was actually an ancestral dragon hatchling. Curious, Poran asked if he was a dragon knight. Takeru explained that he wasn't, he had simply found an egg and managed to hatch it by chance. That revelation left the group even more surprised, wanting to understand better. Takeru asked how rare dragons were in that world, and Eliza replied that dragon knights were already extremely uncommon, but a true dragon was nearly impossible to find. Hearing that, Takeru remembered the games from his old world, where dragon knights were always legendary figures, and thought that he would love to meet one for real someday. When night fell, the group decided to camp. Takeru created a security barrier with magic stones to keep monsters away. Poran felt relieved, saying that everyone was safe now. Takeru added that B would warn them if anything approached. He offered to prepare dinner, and when the food was ready, the aroma filled the camp. As soon as they tasted it, everyone was amazed by the flavor. Poran was even moved, saying that after so many days eating only dried meat on the road, this was a real feast. Jokingly, the old man declared that Takeru wasn't just a collector, but a taste magician, and everyone burst out laughing. After the meal, Poran took out a guitar and started playing while Eliza sang a soft song. The children played around Takeru and B, and he let himself be carried away by that simple, joyful moment, something he had never experienced in his old world. For the first time since arriving in that world, he felt like he could truly laugh. When it was time to sleep, Takeru lay down and looked up at the sky full of stars. In silence, he felt deeply grateful to be there, sharing such simple and sincere moments. The next morning, Takeru woke up early to perform maintenance on his scissors. Poran told him that they would continue their journey right after breakfast, and the boy took the chance to ask if he could drive the wagon. So, after finishing breakfast, Takeru took the reins. He enjoyed the ride, admiring the scenery and the fact that he was driving a wagon pulled by a unicorn, something he never imagined experiencing, not even in his wildest dreams. Before long, they could see the village of Tormi in the distance. Upon arriving, Takeru said goodbye to Poran and his family, thanking them for the ride and the company during the trip. Marlowe commented that Poran's return marked the beginning of spring. Curious, Takeru asked what he did during the rest of the year. Marlowe explained that, in winter, Poran traveled to warmer regions and survived by weaving to make a living. When he returned, it was a sign that spring had arrived. However, those trips were harsh, unable to hunt. They barely found food and supplies to survive. Takaru then realized that was probably why Poran had cried when eating his food that day. Comparing his own life to that of Poran's family, he understood how lucky he was to have skills that helped him gather materials. After that, Takaru went to Jerome's shop to deliver the materials he had collected. Among the mithril ore the old man had requested, he intentionally slipped in a small fragment of magical mithril, just to see the blacksmith's reaction. Jerome's eyes widened as he asked what that strange thing was that the boy had brought. His instincts told him it wasn't an ordinary ore, it looked like magical mithril, something he only knew from ancient legends. Takaru was surprised to learn that the ore was so rare and valuable. Jerome explained that magical mithril was a mass of concentrated mana and that even a small fragment could replace the magic stones used throughout the entire kingdom. Takaru had no idea that the material was that powerful and tried to play it off, saying he had just found it by chance. Still, the old man believed that the fact Takaru had found and recognized such a mineral proved he was both lucky and skilled, qualities of a talented person. However, Jerome also thought the boy lacked common sense, so he recommended that Takaru go to Belkame, a large city with an adventurer's guild. There, he could learn more about the world and mature a bit. He added that if Takaru became famous and spoke well of Tormi, it would help the village prosper. Although he had no plans of becoming famous, Takaru was excited about the idea of visiting a big city. Later, at the inn, he looked for information about the Adventurers Guild in one of the available books. Ever since being sent to that new world, he had wanted to see different places and live new experiences, and becoming an adventurer seemed like the right path, especially since he could earn some money. Even so, he decided to stay in Tormi a little longer before leaving. The next day, he took the rock hawk to be processed and turned into ingredients. That night, he joined a festival in the village and had a great time. In the following days, he kept his routine of gathering materials. One day before his departure to Belkame, Takaru stopped by a shop to restock the ingredients he needed. The woman in charge handed him powdered broth made from the rock hawk's bones, along with various other supplies. She mentioned that everyone in the village would miss him the next day and warned him that it would take about a month to reach Belkame, so she gave him several bags of food for the journey. He thanked her for the kind gesture and returned to the inn. Thinking about how he could repay all the hospitality he had received, Takaru had an idea. He wanted to do something special for everyone in the village. He took a lantern and the magical mithril fragment, using magic to fuse them. Even without knowing if it would work, he focused carefully and achieved exactly the result he had imagined. The next morning, Takaru said goodbye to everyone in the village and told Marlowe that he had created a special magical tool. He explained that the item projected a protective barrier around the entire village, preventing anyone with ill intent from entering. Marlowe asked if he was sure he wanted to leave something so valuable behind, and Takaru confirmed that he did. It was his way of thanking them for all their kindness and hospitality. Jerome, observing the lantern, immediately realized that Takaru had used the magical mithril ore to create it. But before he could say anything, the boy was already running off, smiling and waving goodbye, not giving anyone a chance to return the gift. Some time later, on the road to Belkame, Takaru came across a giant crab. However, he didn't see it as a threat, rather as an opportunity, since to him, monsters were ingredients. He was about to fight when Bee attacked first, letting out a powerful sound that instantly knocked the crab down. Takaru was impressed by his partner's strength, but the calm didn't last long. Two more crabs appeared and surrounded them. The boy was confident, thinking crabs could only move sideways, but he was caught off guard when both of them charged straight at him. Before he could react, Bee lifted him with its claws, and the two monsters collided with each other, falling unconscious. However, the first crab, the one that had been knocked out earlier, got back up. Without hesitation, Takaru grabbed his staff and, with a firm swing, struck the creature like a professional baseball player. This time, the result was final game over for the crab. When night came, Takeru used hardening magic on his hands and began cutting the monster's legs, preparing an improvised dinner. He put everything in the pot, added salt, and waited for it to cook. The aroma quickly spread, and when they tasted it, both he and B were delighted by the flavor. The experience made him even more excited about traveling the world and trying different foods from each region. The next morning, they finally arrived at the commercial city of Belkame. There was a long inspection line to enter, and Takeru decided to use magic to disguise his magic bag. When his turn came, he asked B to hide. During the inspection, the guard discovered that he was a material collector and asked if he was there to sell something. Takeru replied that his goal was to visit the Adventurers Guild. The inspector smiled, saying he figured as much, since Belkame was known for being the center of trade and adventure. Before letting him through, the guard explained that he needed to use an item called Avaris, which could determine whether a visitor posed any kind of threat. At the end of the test, he concluded that everything was fine. Curious, Takeru activated his scanning ability to see what the inspector was seeing and was surprised to notice that his stats looked completely normal. None of the extravagant skills granted to him by the solar system manager appeared there. The inspector only found it odd when he noticed something called Blessing of the Dragon and asked what it meant, not wanting to reveal that he had received it from Voldius, an ancient dragon. Takeru asked B to come out of hiding and explained that it was probably something related to his partner. The man then asked him to put some kind of accessory on the dragon to confirm that they were companions. Takeru placed the bracelet he had received from the children in Tormi, and the inspector nodded, saying he would register the dragon's presence with the mayor, but that it wouldn't cause any trouble. One of the staff members explained that he only needed to follow the main road to reach the Adventurers Guild. Takeru thanked them and went on his way. Not long after, he found the large guild building. Upon entering, he was amazed by the variety of people and races. He was soon approached by the receptionist, Ariana, who led him to a table to complete his registration. She asked him to fill out his name and occupation on a form. That was when Takeru noticed something curious. He could understand the people's language, but had never tried writing it. Even so, he wrote normally and was fascinated when he saw the letters automatically change into that world's script. With the form in hand, Ariana asked if he had any combat experience. Takeru said yes, explaining that he had defeated a huge bird, some wolves, and even giant crabs. The girl asked if he could prove it. Takeru warned her that his example was a bit large and asked if he could take it out right there. Ariana, not really understanding, agreed. Then, he pulled an entire giant crab out of his magic bag. The receptionist screamed and ran off, completely terrified. A demi-human, who seemed to be the guild master, approached wanting to know what was going on. Takeru calmly explained, and the man asked if he had an item box. The boy confirmed, saying he had received it as a gift. The master then used an ocular ability to analyze Takeru and confirmed he was telling the truth, calling him Blue. Confused, Takeru asked what that meant. The man apologized, explaining that he had used an Avaris spell without asking permission. His version of the ability could read a person's nature, and the blue hue indicated that he wasn't involved in anything dangerous. Next, the master invited him to have the crab's shell evaluated and paid for. But Takeru explained that he wasn't there to sell it, he wanted to eat the crab. The comment left everyone shocked. The demi-human simply laughed and told them to continue the registration. He asked if Takeru had any party members, and when the boy introduced B, everyone in the guild was stunned to realize that B was a dragon. The commotion was so great that several people started whispering, and even considering inviting him to their groups. Seeing that things were getting out of control, Ariana quickly took him to a nearby room. There, she completed his registration, and Takeru officially became an adventurer. The receptionist handed him a bracelet and explained that all beginners started at rank F. B, looking at the accessory, was excited to see that they now wore matching bracelets. Some time later, Takeru went to the home of the family of the adventurer he had found dead near the village of Tormi. He offered a few words of comfort to the family, and when he noticed the old man coughing right in front of him, Takeru remembered what the inspection guard had mentioned. Baluria Fend, the adventurer in question, had been taking on jobs to pay for his father's medicine. At first, Takeru only planned to deliver Baluria's belongings, but upon seeing the man's condition, he decided to help in any way he could. After that, he went to the guild to sell the materials he had gathered. The receptionist admitted he had never seen materials of such high quality, commenting that several clients were specifically requesting Takeru's work. At that moment, Ariana appeared, carrying several missions that had been requested for him. Takeru explained that he could take on some of them, but not all. The girl thanked him and left to inform the clients. Later, Takeru went to take a bath with B. He remembered it had already been a month since they arrived in Belkame. The first time they came to this bath, the water was completely dirty, but he had managed to purify it with his magic. Now, that place had become a perfect refuge to ease the exhaustion of daily life. While he was relaxing, a man named Clay also appeared to treat some old scars that had worsened. He mentioned hearing that Takeru had healed a sick man in the slums, which surprised him since he didn't know the boy had healing abilities. Takeru remembered the moment he healed Baluria's father, knowing it was the least he could do for the family. Takeru explained to Clay that he had merely copied a spell he had seen someone use. Clay noted that the boy truly was kind, since he hadn't even charged for his work, and Takeru became worried, wondering if the healers who charged for their services might have gotten angry with him. Clay laughed and asked if Takeru hadn't received a notice to move up in rank. The boy replied that he was satisfied with his current position. Clay warned him that if he kept this up, he would attract even more attention. Then, Clay stood up and left. The scene shifted to Takeru receiving his payment from the guild receptionist. He remembered that there had already been several requests for him to be promoted, but he kept refusing, believing that a higher rank would only bring more problems. All he wanted was to live peacefully. At that moment, an adventurer entered the guild announcing that goblins were attacking. The guild master ordered all adventurers to gather and instructed Muesli to call Clay, the A-rank adventurer known as the Dragon King. Takeru tried to slip away quietly, since he was only rank F, but the guild master called him to help. Soon after, several adventurers had gathered. The man explained the mission. They couldn't allow the goblins to cross the bridge over the Zalwes River. Two beastmen adventurers looked down on Takeru with disdain, mocking him for being rank F and telling him to be careful not to get in the way. The guild master approached Takeru and asked if he was the collector Grit had praised. The boy confirmed. The man commented that it was rare for Grit to praise anyone that much and was impressed, since Takeru was the first person who didn't show fear in his presence. Before walking away, he told the boy to protect whatever was important to him and then left, calling Diego and Oraldo. Muesli commented that Takeru must really be impressive, since the guild master had decided to send him to the battlefield despite being only rank F. Some time later, they positioned themselves near the battle site. Muesli stayed close to Takeru, clearly scared even of birds. He tried to calm her down, explaining that they were at the rear, where they couldn't even see the enemies. He told her she needed to stay calm, as her role would be to use healing magic and help those who were injured. Takeru emphasized that feeling afraid was natural, and that what mattered was doing their best to survive and help others with their magic. After hearing this, Muesli felt more confident about helping however she could. Clay approached and praised Takeru for managing to calm the girl down. The boy commented that he thought Clay would be on the front lines, but Clay explained that his scars made movement difficult. Takeru asked if that was because of the deep scars on Clay's back. The man, looking a bit downcast, asked if the boy didn't think those marks were a shame for a warrior, since everyone who saw them assumed he had tried to flee from an enemy. Takeru said he knew those scars existed because Clay had protected someone. He had been gravely wounded but was still alive. As long as he lived, he could continue protecting others. Those words encouraged Clay. Soon, they heard the alarm that the enemies had managed to break through the front line. Even though he wasn't in full condition, Clay said he would head to the front, declaring that even if his body gave out, he would still protect Takeru. The boy watched Muesli, who, even though she was nervous, was tending to an injured person, and he remembered the words of the guild master about protecting whoever you wished to protect. Feeling determined, Takeru took his staff from his magic pouch and raised a powerful barrier. Then, he advanced to the front lines. Meanwhile, the battle was growing more intense. Despite the adventurers' strength, the enemies were many, and if they crossed the bridge, Belkame would be in danger. Takaru arrived, knocking down a goblin, and upon noticing the number of enemies, asked B to intervene. The little dragon responded by casting a large-scale spell, wiping out all the goblins in sight. The boy then turned to Diego and Oraldo and asked why they were staying so far back. Diego explained that the front line had collapsed due to the appearance of a powerful enemy, a goblin sergeant. They had only managed to escape thanks to Clay's help. Suddenly, it started to rain. Clay was fighting multiple enemies, but his scars made it difficult for him to move. When he was about to be struck, B intervened with his lightning magic, protecting him. Surprised, Clay asked what Takaru was doing there. The boy replied that he had come to help since Clay could barely move because of his scars. To emphasize his point, Takaru lightly patted Clay's back, making him cry out in pain. The goblin sergeant appeared and attacked them, but they managed to dodge. Clay decided to buy time so that Takaru could escape, but the boy refused to leave him to die and then asked if the scars on his back were important to him. Clay found the question strange at that moment, but replied that they weren't, calling those marks his disgrace. Takaru then said he would remove them. He took some magic water and poured it over Clay, reciting a healing spell. The effect went far beyond expectations. Clay not only recovered but also evolved. The water contained mana from an ancient dragon, and since Clay was a beastman of the dragon race, he absorbed that power in an extraordinary way. The goblin sergeant and all the other goblins tried to flee, but Clay defeated them in a matter of seconds. Soon, the guild master appeared, asking if Takaru had been responsible for unlocking Clay's potential. The boy confirmed. The master, knowing that wasn't all Takaru could do since he had heard reports of his actions on the battlefield, asked who he really was. Takaru replied that he was just an F-rank adventurer whose main skill was collecting materials. The master expressed doubt that it was only that but said it didn't matter, thanked him, and assured him that the guild would reward his help. Later that night, Clay went to Takaru's room seeking an explanation. Takaru was happy to see that he had recovered, but Clay said he wasn't normal, still feeling something hot burning inside him. Then, Takaru told the truth. He had used magic water from an ancient dragon he had found in an underground lake, the same dragon that was B's father or mother. Clay was shocked to learn that B was the child of an ancient dragon. He sat down and asked why Takaru had used that water on him. The boy explained that, since it was made of dragon mana, he believed it would speed up the healing if absorbed directly through the skin. Clay wanted to know if Takaru could also use advanced healing spells, but he said it was the same spell. As always, the difference was how he imagined Clay's veins, nerves, and body components, which enhanced the effect. Clay was impressed and repeated the question about who Takaru really was. The boy hesitated, wondering if he should reveal where he came from. The manager of the solar system hadn't forbidden it, but Takaru feared it would cause a big commotion. Clay stood up and said he didn't need to tell if he didn't want to, apologizing before leaving. However, Takaru decided to trust him and revealed that he was someone from another world who had reincarnated into this one after his death. After some time explaining, even though it was hard to believe, Clay accepted the truth, especially since Takaru had turned him into a dragonute, their ancestral species. Clay was proud to take on that noble form, but was frightened, afraid of losing control and causing destruction. Takaru tried to calm him, assuring him that he would learn to control his power since there was no way to return to normal. Clay scolded him, saying that Takaru handled everything too casually, as if it were simple, and that he needed to learn more about that world. The next morning, Takaru went to the craftsman's district and stopped in front of a shop, telling B that he wanted to buy something. A Catwoman nearby asked if he had seen something that caught his attention. And so we finish the 4th episode of the anime, Sazai Seishuka no Isekai Ryakuki. If you want the continuation of the next episodes, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep watching the upcoming videos. See you next time.